Hey everybody, it's Walt coming to you from South Saddle Studios, my studio home away from home in the basement of my home. Lots of homes there. Hey, I thought I'd do something new. I got a recommendation from my son, who is a little bit of a tech genius when it comes to this stuff, on a way that I can record my face and all my screens. So I thought I'd do a video on how I made my next cover release that should be coming out here shortly. And that song is Take On Me by a-ha. This song originally released in 1985. Very, very popular pop hit in the synth revolution of music. Everybody knows this song. Everybody knows this song. So how did I get it? Well, I was thinking that I needed to add some dance music to my repertoire for when I get to playing out again. Not if, when. It will happen. Don't know when, but it will happen. And about a week later, I was driving down the road and heard this song on the radio, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to do this song. It's great. Such great energy in this song. So when it came down to wanting to do it, I was listening to it, and musically, I thought it'd be pretty easy. Mistaken thought number one. Vocally, I knew it was going to be a challenge because Morten Harket, the lead singer for a-ha, has one, a very unique voice, two, an amazing falsetto, and three, he sings in such a way where he pushes and pulls his vocals. And if you don't push and pull in the right points like he did, you lose a little bit of vibe of the song. So let's dig in to how I actually made this. But before we do, it's very important to know that music is always better with your favorite beverage. So if you don't have your favorite beverage with you, please go and open one of your favorites. It could be a non-alcoholic variety, or it could be an alcoholic variety, but your beverage makes music better. So get one of those. All right. So anytime I look at starting a new song, I usually start with the rhythm section because the drums and the bass are the heart of every song. Absolutely the heartbeat of every song. So for this one, I wanted to get a drum tone that I wanted to use for this song. Now, I said a drum tone. What exactly does that mean? You notice behind me, I don't have a drum kit back here. I used to. Used to be one sitting, everything's backwards as I look at it. Right there. Used to be right there. That was Freddie's drum kit. Freddie is an amazing freaking drummer. I loved playing with him. He is, oh my God, he would play stuff and it could just make me melt. But I don't have that now. So the question is, how do I do drums on my music? Well, enter my daughter-in-law, who is a fantastic guitar player, awesome musician, and has a fabulous ear for music. I love sending my stuff to her because she gives me good feedback. I don't always like that feedback because sometimes it's not always very positive, but that's part of the musical experience and a way to make yourself better. You got to have that critique, and that's why I love your guys' comments as well. So she turned me on to a plugin that you can use to create drums called Superior Drummer 3. This is the actual plugin itself. Now, with this plugin, I had this problem just a little while ago when I was trying to do this video, and I couldn't get it to turn out right. With this plugin, basically what they have done is they have recorded acoustic drums and turned them into samples. So here is the drum kit that I chose to use for this particular production. The nice thing about Studio Drummer 3, it does come with its own sound pack, if you would, of different drum kits. But you can get different sound packs that emulate different drum kits. And it's not an emulation, I shouldn't say that are actually samples, recorded samples of different drum kits. This one happens to come from their Death and Darkness package. Now, the nice thing about this is they come pre-programmed for their sound that they actually recorded. If you want to, you can change anything you want about this kit. In this case, I actually tuned these top drums up a little bit because where they were originally tuned, they didn't really cut through the mix the way I wanted them to cut through. The original snare was a deeper, duller snare. I wanted that 80s pop sound. I changed out the snare simply by selecting a menu, and you can pick which snare you want. It's fabulous. You can change out cymbals. You can change the sound of the kicks. You can have a single kick or a double kick. In this case, I had a double kick because I wanted to have that rock roots feel that I grew up with. So this is awesome. Now, when it comes to programming this, how do you do it? Well, it's basically a MIDI programming setup. So for those of you that have worked with MIDI before, MIDI, you usually have a piano roll with all your notes on the left side, and you put a MIDI note in where you want a particular instrument to play, and the length of the note determines the length of the release of the instrument. Now, drums are very staccato. You don't need to control the release. The release is actually controlled by the drum kit itself. What type of wood is it made out of? How are the drum heads tuned? How hard do you strike the head of the drum? So you don't need the length of the note. All you really need is to know what beat each particular note is going to hit on. So you can program that in. On the left side, I have all the parts of the drum kit. I got my kicks, my snare, and if I drop down any of these drums or cymbals, I can choose where I'm going to hit that particular drum element. Do I want it in the center? Do I want it on the edge? Do I want a side stick? Do I want a flam? I can control all of that and program these notes in wherever I want them. Now, if you haven't ever done this kind of programming before, don't be afraid. Get some type of drum plugin. They all have editors like this. Fiddle with it. Try it. This is a very visual presentation, unlike when you actually saw the drum kit itself. You could play the drum kit with that visual presentation. It's not exactly easy to do, but the nice thing is, if you put a note somewhere and you say, oh, it doesn't sound right, all you have to do is take it out and put it back in where you think it should be, listen to it. When you get it right, you're done. It's a beautiful thing. I love Superior Drummer. It is awesome. So what did my drums sound like when I finally got everything tuned up the way I wanted to have it tuned up? Well, here's what it sounded like. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Such a great drum sound. I love it. Now, I told you guys, rock roots, rock feel. So I tried to keep the heart of the drum line as it was in the original song. But when it came to getting that rock feel, I wanted to change things up a little bit. Now, you can't have a proper rock song without great fills and a little bit of double bass. So I did stuff like this. Right? Awesome little feel to that. All right. So I got my drum sound the way I wanted it. I got my drum fills the way I wanted it. The next part of the rhythm section is the bass. Now, on this song, originally, when they recorded the song, they recorded the bass using a Yamaha DX7 synthesizer. It's a synth bass, which fit the song perfectly. I wanted my rock roots feel, and rock music doesn't use a synth bass, it uses an acoustic bass. Now, I do have an acoustic bass that I tried to play with this. The sound was too, I'm going to say subtle. It was a little bit muted, a good bass for a song like Comfortably Numb. Not a great bass for an upbeat, hard-driving rhythm with rock elements song like this. So what do? Well, I could go out and buy a different bass, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I dug into my plugins that I have, and I found in my Native Instrument Contact plugin, Kontakt, they have a bass sound in there that I always think of my buddy Vic every time I think of this bass sound, because the bass sound rhymes with Vic. Now, Vic is retired. He's become a bit of a bass aficionado. He's bought like 400 basses. Just kidding. He's got like 10 or 12. But one of them that he has rhymes with Vic, and that's a Rickenbacker. So I dug into Native Instruments, and I found my Rickenbacker bass plugin. So I started fiddling with that, and I got something that I really, really, really like, and it sounds like this. If I hit the right button in the right spot. Nice aggressive sound. It's got good punch in the bottom end. It's got some good high-end bass sound that is going to cut through the mix. That's perfect. So I laid it into the mix, and what I found was it didn't cut through the mix. So there's a couple ways you can fix that. You can go into the plugin and you can mess with the tonal qualities of the plugin. You can change whether you're on the neck pickup or the bridge pickup. You can adjust tone. You can adjust the velocity at which you're hitting the strings. The velocity on this is already cranked up. It still didn't cut through the mix. So I didn't want to mess too much with the tonal qualities because overall, I liked the way it sounded. I thought it was great. It just didn't cut. So fast forward to a trick that I learned from YouTube, and that is you take your bass track, you make a duplicate, the exact same bass track, and on the duplicate, which I have right here, you put in distortion. Now, distortion, in a general sense, is bad. You get too much distortion, it makes things sound bad. You get digital clipping, it's bad. But if you take that distorted track and very gently blend it in with the original track until you get to a point to where that instrument cuts through the mix to where you want it, life is good. You're at a good place. It's a simple fix. Believe it or not, you can also use that trick with vocals. You have to be very sparing with it, but if your vocal isn't cutting through a mix, you can do that exact same thing. So let's listen to what it sounded like before and after with the distorted track in there. Here's without and with. Now I know what you're thinking, because I'm thinking the exact same thing. That by itself sounds like a colossal steaming pile of shit. And you're right, it does. It sounds bad. But when you put it in the totality of the mix, in a mix, everything has its place. You put too many things in one place, it's going to sound bad. But when you add that distortion in, it takes the bass and shifts the frequency range slightly of that track, placing it in some place that can cut through the mix, and suddenly things sound really, really good. So this is what it sounds like with the drums. So you can still hear that distortion. It's still there, but I'm going to ask you to revisit that when I play everything together. All right, so I got my rhythm section. I got my drums. I got my bass. What in heaven's name could I want to work on next? Well, the next thing is a signature part of this song, which is the lead keys. Now, I told you guys, Juno 60. Do you see one back here? I don't see one. I got a Yamaha MOXF6 right there. I've got my Native Instruments MIDI controller right there for when I play live. It controls my keys. I know Juno 60. I love the Juno 60. If you got one sitting around you don't want anymore, you need to call me, because I would love to have a Juno 60 down here. It's such a great 80s synth. I'd love to have one. If you got one, message me, because we need to talk. All right, so since I don't have one, how do I come up with that sound? Well, my MOXF6 right there has a sound in it that's pretty close. And I could have used that, but I wanted to get even closer. So I dug back into my Native Instruments plugins, into Complete Control, and I started looking for synth sounds that would mirror the Juno 60. And I started off with basically a sawtooth synth lead sound and had this. That's what I want to do. Doesn't sound too bad. It's a little plain and a little boring, so I threw some chorus and some reverb on it. And then it sounded like this. Yeah. God, that sounds good. But it still didn't have the tonal texture or width that Juno 60 did. So what do we do with that? Well, we add stuff to it. So I went back into Native Instruments and I found a different synth sound, little different tonal qualities that sounds like this. What the hell is that? That sounds nothing like Take On Me. But when you add it subtly with the lead sawtooth synth sound, you get this before the add and after. So before, after, and if you're listening with headphones, and I hope you are, you can hear it just adds width to that song. A little stereo width widens out the sound that's coming out of that. So we're getting closer. I like that, but it still seemed like it was a little bit of a squash sound. It didn't have the top end that Juno 60 did. So I dug in and found something that would be an octave up in frequency with a little different tonal qualities, and I found this. That's a really unique sound. To me, it almost sounds like it's a Moog. If you're familiar with synthesizers, Moogs were one of the very first synthesizers that ever came out. Monophonic, you can't play chords on them. It's one note at a time. But I thought it would add to the element of the song. So let's see how it fills in with the other two sounds. So first without, and with. So again, it's nothing dramatic. All of these changes that you make in music, most of them are going to be very, very subtle. Small corrections lead to small mistakes. Big corrections lead to big mistakes. Add things in subtly, usually you're good. It's a good place to be. So good subtle addition, but again, I wanted more. I wanted more because it still didn't feel like I had the complete spectrum of sound that's in the Juno 60. So I went one octave higher with a little bit of a bell tonal quality to it and found this sound. So that's really unique. Bell sound in the key, and it's got a weird resonance to it in the background. Listen to that. How could that ever sound good in a song? Because it's a freaky sound. Sounds like it should be in a horror movie or something. But here's what it sounds like. So first three parts, then adding in the fourth. Here's three. And here comes the fourth. Taking it out. Sorry. I muted that, my bad. So again, here's with it. Taking it out. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it is so incredibly subtle. One of the things that I found when I mix music is it's those subtle changes that can make a huge difference. A lot of the songs that I've recorded, I put stuff in and I play it for people and I say, do you hear this in the background? And they go, no. And as soon as I take it away, they go, that's a huge difference. They couldn't hear it at first, but when you take it away, they notice it's gone. That, you get to where you can mix like that, you're doing something right. So keep that in mind. All right, so I got the lead sound. But this is a key-dominated song, and in the background, in both the chorus and the verses, there's a synth pad. Sounds like orchestra strings almost. So with the synth pad, that pad sounded like this. Just follows with the chords of the song. It's really noticeable in the verse. It's very subtle in the chorus. So first, the lead keys without the synth pad, and then I'll add it in. It's a fantastic addition. And again, all we're doing is we're filling out the voids within the musical composition. All right, cool. So we got that. The synth pad is in. The synth pad is a good thing. There's some other keys that fill out the space of the song as well. So for that, we're going to go to the verse. So the verse really sounds, let me bring in the rhythm section because that would be a good thing to do right now. The verse really sounds like this with the synth pad. You know, once you laid vocals over that, it would sound reasonably full. But here's what I noticed. Anytime that I record a cover song, I always put the reference track of the original song within, so I can toggle it on and off, and I can listen to what I have created compared to the original. Now, sometimes you want it to sound just like the original, and sometimes you don't. When I did Zombie, that was a far departure from the original. But this one, I wanted to keep as much of the musical elements as I could to the original, adding in my rock roots. I keep going back to that rock roots, right? So I was listening to the verse, and there was stuff in there that was, you layer in the vocals, and it was really hard to hear. Now, when the vocal stopped, it popped. You could hear it a little bit more. And it was this sawtooth synth, very staccato, triplets or dotted eighths, doo-doo-doo, 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 doo-doo, going through the song. So I found a sound and came up with what I call my little synth arpeggio, and that sound was like this. Very staccato, no reverb, no effects, no nothing on that. It just is a clean sound that's gonna take up some of the void of space within the verse. So here's what the verse sounds like without and with it. First without, and with. Awesome. You're starting to build this thing out to where it's becoming wide and full and rich, and those are all good things. Don't get me wrong, there is a time for one instrument, one time within a song. This is not that song. This song is a layered song. So I put that in, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm feeling good about this. This is coming out good. And then I realized as I went back to the reference track, there was still something in the background that I didn't have, that they did. And honest to God, it sounded like a flute. How many bands do you know that have flute in them? I can think of one from the 70s, a lot of flute. They actually had a dedicated flute player. I can tell you this, has no flute player. They don't. So again, another synth sound. I think this probably came from the Yamaha DX7. I don't know that for a fact, but I started searching my library for flute sounds that I had, and I went back to Native Instruments Contact under their orchestral section, and I found a flute, and I added it in. And it's funny, when I was trying to figure out where it lays in the song, I initially put it in note-wise where I thought it was, and I was wrong. Now, I'm no music theory guy, but where it was really sitting doesn't seem like it should fit in the song, but it does. So here's without and with the flute. Without. Here it comes. 3, 2. Holy crap. It's such a small ad. But guys, here's the thing you got to remember. If you approach music from small additions, very small, very subtle additions, what you're going to find is that those small additions add up. It's like you're putting row of block on top of row of block on top of row of block to create something that is way bigger, of course, than the individual blocks themselves. So I'm loving that. Flute, I don't know if it's a flute or not. I think it's a flute. It sounds like a flute. In my song, it's a flute. My song of their song, it's a flute. All right, cool. So now it was time to really turn my attention to the bridge. And the bridge is kind of cool because it has a couple additional key sounds in it. And it really focuses in the beginning of the bridge, heavy rhythm section. So that's the driving force in the beginning of the bridge is the drums and the bass. So I fired that up and got myself going. And here's what that sounded like with those additional key sections. Little keys there. I like it, but again, I'm sitting there listening to the bass and I'm going, something isn't right. That's the same bass sound I had in the chorus and in the verse and the intro, and I thought it sounded great. But as soon as we stripped some of those other instruments out, I realized it was missing something that the original song has, and that's width. The bass is not this boom, 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 boom. It expands. It kind of has a life of its own and indeed a place of its own. So we look at music, everything has its place. Every world of music lives in its own space. There's multiple worlds, right? There's the bass world, there's the drum world, there's the key world, there's the vocal world, background vocals. All that stuff has its space. It has its space volumetrically. It has its space in a frequency spectrum. It has its space in a stereo field, F-I-E-L-D, the stereo field. So if I put every instrument hard left and hard right, like you would your car stereo, things start to clash and those worlds start to collide. When worlds start to collide, real life or musically, it's a bad thing. In real life, planets explode and music world stuff sounds like shit. So how do I get that width? Well, I added to the bass a chorus and a flanger, and it went from this to this. Without and with. You can hear how much fatter that sounds. And again, it's very subtle, but in the grand scheme of things, little thing plus little thing plus little thing plus little thing, you get this fuller, almost larger than life sound. So now my rhythm section sounded like this. And again, just another little different synth pad in the back. It's what they did in the original song. Now, the other thing that I think is kind of signature to the bridge is what I call a key trill. Everybody recognizes this key trill, and without it, the bridge sounds a little bit empty. That's why I think it's a signature part of the song. Recognition, and without it, it doesn't sound right. So, I put together this key trill. It's a basic electric piano sound that, again, I got out of my Native Instruments Complete Control. And note-wise, again, it doesn't seem like it should fit, but it does. The other thing they did with it is they took the stereo field with a stereo pan at the beginning, and then they pushed it to the left channel, and then pulled it back to center, and then pushed it to the right channel. So here's what that key trill sounds like by itself. Hold on, it's coming. It's coming. Yes, yes. Ah, amazing. And in context of the mix, Notice the pan. And another key, yet another keyboard bell sound, which again I think came from the Yamaha DX7. Don't know that for sure, but my suspicion would be that's the Yamaha DX7. All right, so instrumentally now, I've got pretty much the whole song filled out. So now we're down to vocals. So vocally in this song, there's two background vocal parts that fall into place. There's the take on me, and then just before that happens, there's some oohs and ahs and little harmony things that fill in the background in a lower octave. So I thought, maybe the take on me is two voices octaves apart. The oohs and ahs are 3-part harmonies that sit in there. So I thought maybe 3 vocal tracks of each. So 6 vocal tracks, I should be able to do it. Now, why 6? Why can't I just do octaves, 1 track, and then 3 for the other part? So 5 tracks of backing vocals. The reason is when you have multiple backing tracks and you spread them across the stereo field, you get a very rich, full vocal sound. So I ended up, as you can see here, my vocals are in violet. I color code everything. Guitars are green, G for guitar, G for green. Drums are red because they're the heartbeat of the song. Bass is blue. Vocals are violet. And of course, keys are yellow. I have no logic for that whatsoever. But that's the way I lay out my tracks to help it easier to recognize what faders and section you're working in. So I have 16 tracks of vocals. The reason is I ended up with 8 of each section. The vocals, the harmonies actually overlap at one point. So I can't put all of them on one track because one would cut out the other. So my oohs and ahs sound something like this. Sorry, I don't have oohs and ahs in the bridge. They are in the chorus. Pretty good, right? But a little bland. So you add in a little bit of vocal reverb and you get this. And again, you'll notice the panning on these channels start off very hard left, a little bit more towards center, a little bit right of center, and a little bit further right. And then same thing again, but hard left. Left of center again, but not in the same place as this left of center. Notice they're different. The reason again being is everything in the song needs its place. If I put 2 vocals, especially of the same tone, in exactly the same place in the stereo field, I lose my effect of doubling my vocals. So you don't want to do that. Don't do that. It's one of my favorite phrases at work. Don't do that. So 16 is, so what would it sound like with half of those gone? Well, here's all of them. Nice and thick. Here's half. Here's what it would sound like if I only did 4 of those tracks. Still good and probably still adequate. However, that's better. That's just all there is to it. So then you add in the take on me part. Take on me. And notice those meters. Notice how the meters are eventually, at some point, they're all lit up. Watch this. Backing vocals, low part. Take on me. See how they overlap right there? And that's why I couldn't put them all on one track. So I could have got away with 8-part backing harmonies or 8-track backing harmonies, but I ended up needing double that amount of tracks to do it. So that's awesome. You know, within the mix, what does it sound like? Sounds really good. I like that. I love lots of harmonies. Anybody that's listened to my music knows I love lots of harmonies. So that's a good thing. So now it brings us to one of the hardest parts of the song, and that is the lead vocals. Now, I'm going to tell you guys this. I don't like listening to my vocals in isolation. And there's a very simple and very logical reason for that. And that reason is that I suck. I don't like the sound of my vocals by themselves. You know, playing in a cover band with lots of other people playing, I think I do okay. When I listen to my vocals by themselves, and especially on a song like Pieces, where it's my vocals and piano, it's hard for me to really be objective about those vocals because I don't like them. You know, when I was singing with Counterfeit, I could listen to Megan in isolation all day long. Such a great voice. Mine, I don't think so. I think it works well with other stuff, but isolation, not so much. But in the spirit of this video, I'm going to play them in isolation. Oh, I don't want to. All right, so here's what I noticed. In the song, I think the only thing they used on Morten Harket's voice is reverb. So I've got some reverb right here, tied into my vocal track, and here's what that would sound like. I'm going to take us to the verse because that's where I think the best example of this is. Here we go.
Talking away, I don't know what I'm to say, I'll say it anyway. Today is another day to find you shying away. Oh, I'll be coming for your love, okay.
Now that sounds like a lot of reverb. And I will tell you this, for those of you that master, you know this. When you put reverb on anything, when you go to master and you add compression to a song, the things that are subtle actually become more prominent because you're cutting off, with compression, you're cutting off the top of the dynamic frequency range of the song. So you bring the loud stuff down a little bit, which makes it seem like the lower stuff gets louder. So within context of the song, the reverb diminishes just a little bit and sounds like this.
Talking away, I don't know what I'm to say, I'll say it anyway. Today is another day to find you.
So the reverb gets a lot less. The other thing I do with my reverb is I tend to gate them with a side chain. So I don't want the reverb as loud when active singing is going on, but when that singing stops, I want that reverb to pop. And that's what doing that does. When you set your reference source to the either a compressor or a gate, in this case I used a compressor, when the lead vocal is singing, it compresses the reverb down a little bit. And then when the singing stops, it releases that compression and you hear the tail of that reverb ring out. Makes it a lot clearer in the mix so you don't get muddy vocals. But I wanted something else because, again, I like it. That is true to the original song, the best I can tell. But I wanted a little bit more acoustic feel to the vocal itself. So I added in a little bit of a delay. For those of you that don't know, a delay is an echo. So the echo then sounds something like this, first without and then with.
Talking away, I don't know what
Here it comes.
I'm to say, I'll say it anyway. Today is another day to find you shying away.
It's a very short feedback or repeat delay. Just basically hits the tail end of the last syllable of the last word. So I like that. Filled it out just a little bit, gave it a little bit more flair.
Talking away, I don't know what I'm to say, I'll say it anyway.
All right, so I'm liking the way that's sounding, but now comes the crux of the matter, the elephant in the room, the big problem to this production, because Morten Harket, bless his heart, sweet Norwegian boy, he can sing some serious falsetto shit. He can get high. I mean, high. And I'll tell you this, when I was 16, I could hit his high. I could sing with Bradley Delp, the angel of all rock singers. note for note, I could go with Bradley Delp. The one small problem is I'm not 16 and my voice doesn't do what it used to do. So I'm left with a dilemma, and that is this. In this song, there is one note that is particularly problematic, and that happens to be this big blob of blue right here, because that, among other places, is where Morton Harkett goes really, really flippin' high. Now, there's a saying in the music business that if you want to hit a high note, you put certain parts of your anatomy into a vice. And I'm going to tell you this. There is no vice big enough to make me hit that note. So, what do I do with that? Well, there's a couple things I could do. I could sing it an octave lower, which I can hit. That's easy. That's easy peasy. And I could do that for the recording. Live, I could leave that note out and egg on the audience and get them to sing that note for me. That's an option too. But this isn't live. And quite honestly, when I sang that note at the same octave here, it didn't sound right. So up here on my vocal chain, you notice I got this little plugin up here. It's the very first one. It's called Melodyne. It's a pitch correction software that allows you, if you sing a little bit flat, you can nudge a note up and get it where you want it. If you sing a little bit sharp, you can bring a note down and get it where you want it. Commonly used in the music industry. I try to use this very sparingly because I don't want the human element to be lost. And I don't want something to sound like I can't sing it in real life. And here's the conundrum. I can't sing that note. But Melodyne sure does make it easy to cheat and take the note from here, where I actually sang it, and just move it up to right there, which is where Mr. Harkett sings it. So, full disclosure, they make it easy to cheat, and I used the benefits of cheating, I guess, for the recording. Now, what I'll do live, I'll probably sing it an octave lower, and I have a vocal effects processor that can put a harmony on that one octave up. But I can't hit that note. So I'm ready, guys. Give me the criticism. Tell me I'm cheating. Tell me it's bullshit. I'm game for all of it. I made an executive decision. I'll take the criticism. But once you're done criticizing, we're going to put a beer in one hand of yours, a mic in the other, and I'm going to tell you to sing that note. And if you can do it, you're on stage with me. Otherwise, I will just take your constructive criticism and we'll share a beer together and we'll be good to go. So that's it, guys. That is Take On Me by Aha. It should drop about 2 weeks after this video hits my YouTube channel. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much. Always appreciate the support. If you're watching this and you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing, ringing the bell. Hey, and let me know in the comments if you like this. I don't know how many people are going to like this. I like this kind of shit, but I'm kind of a music nerdy kind of guy, and this stuff works for me. So let me know if you like it. For those of you that are my supporters, always, 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 thank you so much. I appreciate you supporting my hobby, being down here in the studio. I can't express my appreciation enough. Everybody that's watching, please have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want more, let me know. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Love you all. We'll see you next time.